Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Becca and today I'm going to be sharing with you the most intimidating books on my TBR. Most people think of intimidating books, they think of really big books. And while it is true that a lot of the books that I'm sharing with you guys today are pretty huge, that is not the only reason why they intimidate me. I'm actually no longer scared of chunky books. I think around 20% of the books that I've read so far this year are what would be considered as a tome. And to me now, the thicker a book is, the more story it contains. So if I'm really loving a book, I want it to be as long as possible, providing of course that length is necessary and it's not filled with a ton of random stuff that just bumps up the page count. So I have 8 books to share with you guys today. Some are hella thick, some are normal sized, and one is actually quite small, but all of them intimidate me for some reason and I'm going to be telling you guys why. So the first one we have is The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. This is the first book in a very well known and very well loved epic adult fantasy series. I'm not even sure what the plot of this is because I've read the synopsis many times and it is pretty vague. However, what I'm expecting about this is a very vast, very intricate, multi-perspective adventure. All I do really know about this is that it surrounds the Wheel of Time. The Wheel of Time keeps turning, ages pass, things become myths, and new ages are born. I am actually really excited to read this series because I love myself a hefty adult fantasy. However, this book alone is 770 pages, and I believe that there are 15 or 16 books in the series in total, and they are all of a similar length. Now, while I don't mind a big book, if this was the first book in 3 or 5, maybe this would be a little bit less intimidating to me, but 15 books this big, at a steady pace, I would guess it would take me at least a year to complete this series, because books of this size, and I'm assuming that this is pretty dense as well, while I do love them, I can only read 1 or 2 a month, otherwise I start to get slumpy. Next up, we have another chunky one of 800 pages, and that is The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. Once again, it is not the length of this book that scares me. The issue that I have with this one is that it's literary fiction. Donna Tartt is held on such a pedestal as being a literary genius. I know a lot of people do think that her books are pretty boring, but there is supposed to be some profound message in here. If I were to pick any Donna Tartt book to read right now, I would probably much rather read The Secret History than this one, which is a dark academia murder mystery. However, The Goldfinch is the one that I found first secondhand, so when I eventually get around to it, this one will be my first book by Donna Tartt. In this one, we follow a young boy. I think he had a tragic childhood. There was some sort of accident in his past and he is taken in by a wealthy family. However, our main character does miss his mother quite a lot, and because of this he clings on to the only thing that truly reminds him of her, which is a painting of a goldfinch, and I believe that this leads him into some sort of criminal underground. Now, the plot of this does not sound particularly intriguing to me. However, I will give this a go and I will give Donna Tartt a go just because she's held in such high esteem, but literary fiction is really not my thing. I can't even tell you if I've read literary fiction in the last year. It's just a genre or a type of fiction, because a lot of subgenres get lumped in with literary fiction, that I'm just really not into, and so this one, when I get to it, is going to be a little bit of a struggle for me. Next up, we have A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. So this is one that a lot of you guys really love. This is some of your favorite series. My knowledge of this series is once again quite limited. However, I believe it is about a woman who finds something in a library that leads her to discover a supernatural underworld of witches, vampires, and werewolves, etc. Now, I don't typically read a lot of paranormal, and when I do, this is not the type of paranormal I read. I believe that this has some historical fiction elements in it, and I do think that there's some kind of romance in here. Honestly, the reason that this intimidates me is I have no idea what I'm going into in here. While it is paranormal, I don't think that this is going to be like anything else that I've read from the paranormal genre, so I am a little bit scared of it, but I do want to give it a try eventually because I know a lot of you guys really love this series. Next up, we have the shortest book in this stack, and that is The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. Now, this one, as you can see, is quite small, especially in comparison to the rest of the books that we have here. However, it is the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy that intimidates me, not just the first book, The Fellowship of the Ring. So my knowledge on Lord of the Rings is a little bit limited. I've only seen the first movie and that was not even too long long ago, but this is a classic fantasy that a lot of people love. Tolkien laid down a lot of the foundations for the fantasy genre as we know it. A while back I was never interested in Lord of the Rings, but now that I read a lot of fantasy and I found that fantasy is my favorite genre, I do definitely want to dive in and read some of the cornerstones of the genre. In this one we follow Frodo, who is a hobbit who has come into possession of the one ring that rules them all. Now, for some reason that I can't quite remember from the movie, Frodo has to return this ring to Mordor, I think to cast it in and destroy it, and he ends up embarking on this journey with a couple of his friends and also a mismatched group of people who are known as the Fellowship of the Ring. Now, the reason that this one intimidates me is, once again, I have no idea what to expect from this. I have no idea what Tolkien's writing is like. I do think it is a little bit dense. I think I can handle it. I just have no idea about what the writing in this is going to be like. I have no idea about the pacing. I have no idea if I'm going to enjoy the story. I just know that I want to read it, but I'm definitely scared. Then we have Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. This was a 2019 release, I believe, and this is an adult fantasy story. Now, this is a book by a black author that draws on a lot of African mythology. It has been compared to Game of Thrones. However, I do have it on good authority that, like with the majority of other new fantasy series coming out, this is not actually like Game of Thrones. It's just something that they slap on the cover to sell more copies. Now, I don't actually know anything at all about the plot of this, but the reason that this one intimidates me is that I have heard some pretty bad reviews of this. Now, I believe that this book comes with a whole ton of trigger warnings, and I am not somebody who is sensitive to the majority of issues in most media, but the sheer amount of people who have DNF'd this book within the first 100 pages has me seriously worried. There are people out there who read the most atrocious fantasy with the most triggering content, but this book, they just could not make it through. I do believe that the writing style is also dense in here. Without having read it, I can't say whether I can handle that level of density because writing styles are very particular and subjective, but this is one that I picked up extremely cheap secondhand not too long after its release, so I did snap it up because I am interested in it, and I'm also really intrigued what it is about this book that just turns people off straight away. Then we have The Stylus II by Erin Morgenstern. This was one of the most anticipated releases of last year. Erin Morgenstern is the author of The Night Circus, which is one of BookTube's darlings and a book that I didn't love. Now, the plot of this book is slightly ambiguous, I believe. I think we follow a character who finds a door and he chooses not to go through that door. However, when he is in a library, he finds a book and the book narrates the story of what would have happened if he had gone through that door. Now, I think that that is the plot of this book. I do know that we have 3 clues, which are the key, the bee, and the sword, and I expect this to be very beautifully written because that is what Erin Morgenstern is known for. Now, I am intimidated by this because I didn't love The Night Circus. However, I did read The Night Circus when I was a teenager, which is at least 6 years ago, and not only has my taste in books matured since then, my ability to comprehend more complex, more ambiguous books has improved. That being said, one thing that I still just really do not like in books is ambiguity. I like plots to be solid. I like there to be an answer for everything. I really hate open-ended books, and I really dislike things that are in any way vague. Now, my main issue with The Night Circus is that for the majority of that book, I didn't have a clue what was going on because everything was just so vague, and I'm a little bit worried that The Stylus II is going to be more of the same. Now, from the reviews I've seen of this book, I don't think I'm going to like it. I still really want to give it a try because I do really like beautiful poetical writing styles. I'm just worried about the plot of this one. Now, what I believe is the only young adult book in this video is Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. Now, I have a love-hate relationship with Cassandra Clare. I read the entire Mortal Instruments series the year that the final book was released, and I absolutely adored them. That was my favorite series at the time. However, I did start to get slightly annoyed with Cassandra Clare at the end of that series because I was very annoyed at how much content in the last book, City of Heavenly Fire, was actually just set up for this series. So I can hold a grudge for quite some time, and because of that, I put off for the longest time reading The Infernal Devices. When I did finally read them, I didn't love them. I think I gave gave 2 of the books 3 stars and 1 of them 4 stars. However, I do acknowledge that I don't like historical fiction, and that could be one of the reasons why I wasn't a huge fan of the Infernal Devices. Now we are in 2020. I own every single one of the books in the Dark Artifices in this Waterstones exclusive edition. I bought the first book because I still really wanted to read Cassandra Clare, and then I got the other 2 because I did want the matching copies. But I am a little bit scared to read this. I don't know which way I'm going to go. If you ask me what my opinion on Cassandra Clare is right now without having read this book, I would say that she needs to leave the Shadowhunter series alone and go write something else. However, there is a very large possibility that when I read this book and when I read this series, I am going to fall in love with the Shadowhunter world all over again. The problem I have is that these books are enormous, and with me feeling a little bit bitter towards Cassandra Clare at the moment, that's a lot of book to commit to when I'm feeling a little bit iffy. If you guys are unfamiliar with Shadowhunters, it is a contemporary fantasy universe that Cassandra Clare has created, where we follow groups of Nephilim who are half angel that are tasked with ridding the world of demons. They all live in institutes in various cities across the world, and there are also Domeworlders in the world, which are things like vampires, fairies, and werewolves. I know you guys are either going to scream at me to read this immediately or scream at me to burn it. I'd never go near it. I just really need to bite the bullet, read this book, and see how I feel about Cassandra Clare now overall. But I do have a strong suspicion that I have just grown out of Shadowhunters now. And then the final book that I'm going to be talking about in this video is the Book of S by J.J. Abrams. Now, the reason I'm intimidated by this is I just don't have a clue how to read it. This is a book that was put together by the director J.J. Abrams. It comes in a slipcase, and it is this old looking book that is designed to look like a library book. Now, there are many things I believe going on in this one. I believe that the main plot of this book is that there are 2 people who keep going to the library to get this book and write to each other in the margins, and the reason for this is that they are both trying to figure out who the author of the Ship of Theseus is, which is V.M. Stracker. Now, this book is 2 books because we do actually have the Ship of Theseus in here. However, as you can see, the pages are covered with writing in the margins. And as well as that, the reason this book comes in a slipcase is because it is chock full of postcards and various pullouts that you are to read as you are going through. I need to find the one I dropped. We also have a wheel in here. I believe that this is designed to work out some kind of code, but pretty much I don't know how to read this, and this is why it's intimidating. There are multiple ways to read this book. I believe that you can go through and read the Ship of Theseus and then go through and read everything in the margins and all of the pullouts, or you can go through and read everything together. As of yet, I have not decided how I'm going to be tackling this book. However, I do believe it is going to take me a long time to go through it, and as well as that, I also have a feeling that this book is going to take more than one read through for me to understand everything that's going on here. So that's about it. Those were the 8 books that I own that I'm most intimidated by. Please let me know in the comments what book you guys are most intimidated by, and also let me know if the reason that you are intimidated by books is because of their size or whether there are actually other contributing factors. But that is it for this video, guys, so please don't forget to like if you liked it and subscribe if you want to. If you head into my description box, you will find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram, and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish body butter and candle website, the Instagram for that, and 10% off discount code. But that's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you're go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.